I always say entrepreneurs are maybe one of the top three most delusional people I ever meet in my life, where you're reading all these business books saying it's going to be hard, you're going to lose friends, your family is not going to support you, you're going to go broke, and then you start a business and then you're shocked when all those things happening. And
That's
you're
true.
like, why? I'm special and God loves me and why am I struggling? And it's there is nothing that's happening to you that you didn't be forewarned about. I've reached a point where I can laugh at it because I fell into it also, trying to figure out why am I struggling? I have a nice business. Why is this not smooth sailing? But I think you have to pay your dues. And I think the universe will make sure that you pay your dues.
Podcast world. Welcome to another episode of The Value, the language of business for those of you seeking to build or invest in companies that are scalable and highly valuable. I'm your host, Kevin Valley, and today we're talking about car washing. We're talking about car washing because the gentleman we're speaking to today has the only legal car wash in Trinidad and Tobago where he's able to wash a vehicle with less than 2 liters of water. So we need to find out what is the impetus behind that. His business has been able to scale outside of Trinidad to the Caribbean region, outside of the Caribbean region to Asia, to Africa, and whatnot. His impact has been worldwide. He has won multiple awards, all in the form of Mr. Dareem Jeffrey. Dareem, how you doing?
Kevin, it's always nice to see you, man.
All right, Dareem. So, Dareem, and you've been running this business since you'll say what 2021. So for the past 3 years, right? And you've been having a lot of scale, especially for business. Coming from a very humble region, right? And I know this business is has been born to solve a problem that you experienced dating back to 2018. But I want to go back a little further. I want to get to know who Dareem is. Where did Dareem grow up? How did Dareem grow up? Right? What led him to be so passionate about water conservation and the eco environment?
Yeah. So Kevin, I'm 28 years old, but I spent the first 17 years of my life in deep South Trinidad, Moruga to be exact. And grew up very simple life. My mom had my older brother when she was 14 and had me when she was 15. So, grew up not knowing the finer things in life, but I didn't know we were poor because, poor community, there's nobody to actually compare yourself to. Everybody is, struggling to make ends meet. But I think I had the quintessential Trini childhood upbringing, in South, in nature, simple life, going to the bush, climbing the trees, going to school, just basic South life. I'm a bushman at heart, as they would say. And yeah, and spent, as I said, the first 17 years there. It wasn't the easiest childhood to grow up in. I think going to primary school and secondary school, then you start to see the haves and the haves not. Then you realize where you actually fall in the socioeconomic bracket. So that was a bit of a challenge. But I was always good with my schoolwork in primary school. I actually graduated most outstanding boy. But growing through life, there was a level of abuse that take place, physical, verbal abuse from stepdads and so forth. And that definitely impacted me at the age of around 11 when I was going from primary school to secondary school. So all through secondary school, I was coming from a primary school where I was most outstanding boy and then going to secondary school and placing in the 20th and close to the 30th and so forth. So
Right.
it was a big drain on me mentally, not knowing why I couldn't focus in school. So I went through Form 1 to Form 4, was failing subjects left, right, and center, and not being able to stabilize myself academically. And at the age of around 13, 14, going into 15, around there, approaching Form 5 is when I started to settle myself a little bit. Finding God, going to church, finding, that greater purpose, understanding, and trying to figure out what life is about. And in Form 5 is when I started to settle myself a bit to the point where I actually graduated with a full certificate of 8 subjects with ones and twos.
Nice.
So that was a bit of retribution for me, finishing off my teenage schooling with a bit of a bang. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There's so much to unpack right there. I don't want to go too deep into any sore areas, of course, but I mean, it's talking about abuse and all these things, and and then translating into a period of bad grades, lack of focus. Nobody needs to be a psychology major to understand, that is trauma could would have had that impact. But going into university and as you becoming a young adult or whatnot, how did that, impact your relationship with your mother? I mean, forget the stepdads, but with your mom and so.
Yeah, that definitely was a very tough time in my life. I think it was one of the darkest times I've experienced. At the age of 17, I actually got admitted to UTT and I started to read for
University
my
of
back.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, University of Trinidad and Tobago. I got admitted to start reading for my bachelor's in maritime operation, nautical science.
Okay.
My dad, my dad worked offshore, so he definitely recommended shipping and the oil industry. So I started to pursue that degree and going from Moruga to Chaguaramas, which is from the Southland to the extreme north. I used to leave home at 3 a.m. and reach home at 10 p.m. in the night. And the reason I would leave home at 3 a.m. is because you're coming from the countryside, so there's not much taxis passing on the road. But also to save funds, there was a couple of buses that would leave near to my area and go straight to Port of Spain for 15 TT dollars. And that's a steal of a deal because if you have to travel, that's going to be like 70 TT go back and forth. So I would leave home early and sometimes 5 a.m. would meet me in Port of Spain, sitting on the promenade, looking up at the sky, looking at the moon. And I was just happy to be attending university because I applied for UE, the University of the West Indies, and I did not get through. So just very happy to actually did get through to university. And that was my daily trek every day. 5 a.m. you're in Port of Spain, you look at everybody coming out of the buses and city gates and you're just looking at that rat race and just kind of breathing in the moment. And after a while, it started to become a bit strenuous on me. I would spend the majority of my school time actually sleeping. And because you're coming from a lower class home or low income home, you don't have much money to spend. So for me, my daily lunch would be digestive biscuit and water from the water fountain. And I was just happy with that. I was just happy to, be in a position where you can improve your own livelihood and so forth and receive a proper education. And after a while, I told my mom, I said, it's becoming hard on me. I think I'm going through exhaustion. I can't continue doing this. I need to move closer up to school. I'll find a cheap apartment and I'll come down on the weekends. And she was not too happy with that.
She wasn't.
She wasn't. I think it's because one, we were all we had. Me, her, my brother, my little sisters, and stuff that came afterwards. I'm 28 years now. My mom is in her early 40s. So your mom is like a sister, and we were just that bunch. I don't want to say the black sheep of the extended family, but we were all we had. And she wasn't too happy that I wanted to leave. And then life just growing up with mommy was just also not the best situation because I think she wasn't dealt the best hand in life also. And I think sometimes may not be able to show love as we would want her to show love. And when I told her I wanted to leave, she wasn't happy and continued to go to school 3 a.m. in the morning, leaving, coming back late until I reached a point where I told her, I said, here's what I'm leaving. I'm coming back on weekends, I'm leaving. And the last thing my mother said to me, which was 11 years ago, was that you're an unsuccessful abortion and you should go kill yourself. And that broke me, Kevin. I left home. I found the cheapest apartment in St. Augustine. It was around 900 TT. And 900 TT for any apartment, you're not expecting much at all.
You get through.
And That was a place they called the rat hole because you lived amongst rats. The room itself that I rented was possibly maybe a 8 by 8 or a 9 by 9. It was that small. You couldn't spin around. All it had was a makeshift bed and a table and a chair. You know, as a university student, you can get a table and that chair.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left home, I didn't even leave with any of my clothes or anything. I said, I'll come back, but I have school anymore. I need to leave. And when I sat on the bed that night, reaching St. Augustine for the first time to move in, I had no towel, no sheet, no curtains, nothing, just the clothes on my back. And I would see people passing near to my room because it was a dorm, and they would just look into the room because there's nothing to cover up. I slept that night with all the windows just exposed. When I dipped in my pocket that night, Kevin, I had $28. And that's why every time I give a speech now, I always label it $28 on a dream because I remember I was sitting on that bed and I looked up to the ceiling and I started to cry. I said, God, you didn't bring me out here to suffer. How am I going to make it with $28? I can't even make it back to South to get my clothes to come back up the road. And I would bathe, dry my skin with the shirt on my back, and put back on the shirt. And I remember I used to come out of the room, and the room was at the end of the dome, and at the end of the dome has a patio, and all those guys would be liming and eating and drinking, and university students smoking, of course.
Right.
And I will never forget a day I walked outside and I saw them eating pizza. And I just walked back in my room and I started to cry because I couldn't afford anything to eat. With that $28, I actually bought a pack of crackers and a couple of bus tickets. I got a job at the airport, and the bus tickets took me to work through the public transport, and I would eat 5 crackers a day for the entire month because you have to wait a month before you get paid. And I started to lose weight rapidly. I couldn't figure out what to do, how to sustain myself. And what I decided to do is become a caddy boy. Well, in Trinidad parlance, which is that person who will go to the store for you and you give them your pocket change or whatever change you have from the groceries. And I did that for the first 10 months of my life, my adult life, living on my own. And that's how I survived. I cried every single day for that 10 months. I was actually giving a speech at a foundation, and it was so bad that I remember buying a pack soup, just feeling for something different from the crackers. And I broke it in half and I ate half one day and half the next day. I would go to UE Freshers Week. I remember a time I went there and I told my friend, I said, let me go to this dance competition. They have a hamper. And Kevin, I don't dance. And if you see me on that dance floor, we actually won the competition. And that was the second day when I had the other half of the ramen. When I reached home, after winning the hamper, I saw the ramen totally overtaken by ants.
Oh,
And I
shoot.
said to myself, if I didn't win that hamper, I would have gone hungry that night. And my friend, he said, we're not even splitting the hamper, take it because I know you're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And your friends can't help you. They themselves, normal university students trying to make ends meet. And I did that whole caddy boy thing for 10 months. My surname is Jeffrey, and as you know, Jeffrey from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the butler. So people would
Yeah.
knock on my door and say, Jeffrey. And that was music to my ear because I know I'm going to make a couple of dollars to make it through the next day. And it was the business itself was going so well, Kevin, that I registered Jeffrey's delivery service in legal affairs.
No, that's different. What drove you to actually go and say, let me formalize this? Because normal people would just say, all right, well, I'm making a few extra dollars, I'm gonna do this thing. Use that to buy whoever had a bike, I'm gonna digest it for bourbon, whoever it is. Why you decide to go and spend, because you had probably had to spend $25 to register, do name search and thing, right?
Yeah. So at that point, remember I said I got a small job at the airport. But before I left school, because I spent about 3, 4 months in school before I dropped out. And I left school the day I finished one particular course. There was a course in entrepreneurship taught by a lecturer called Ian Allen. Now that Ian Allen, and next Ian.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this guy showed me a video of Shark Tank. And I said to myself, I need to be an entrepreneur. That is going to be my saving grace. And going through that course, you understand the value of actually registering your businesses. as much as small and trivial as people may think it was. And Kevin, in 10 months' time of me moving out from home and doing that caddy boy business, I bought my first car. And I'm not talking about a shakedown car, a proper car. Everybody liked that car. It was a pretty nice ash gray Lancer. And I used that car to expand my business. I started to drop people home from the airport. I was banking a lot of money at that point.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah,
whoa! You going from dancing for hampers to buying yourself a brand new car? Well, maybe a second hand.
yeah,
It
of
was
course.
brand new. Okay,
Uh,
so
Second
to
hand.
buying your
Yeah.
first car in
Mhm.
10 months, people working in like in bank and thing, sometimes they struggle to do that. So how you manage that?
So I had my job at the airport. It was paying me close to 5,000 a month, and
5,000
I
TT,
would,
so about
I
750 US. Okay.
yeah. So I would live off of what I made from the caddy boy business, the deliveries, and I would save every cent I made from the airport, and that's how I made it through. Of course, it was a fight, a struggle. You want to, enjoy yourself at some point in time, start to eat, go to restaurants, and I just fought my fight, and I did what I needed to do. That was the aim. I needed to buy a vehicle. I know it would have brought a level of convenience. And also, I was working night shift at the airport. So that would have been convenient to me. On your breaks, you could go take a nap in your car and so forth. So that was the goal. And in 10 months, I hit that goal and bought a car, expanded the business, started to do deliveries from groceries. I think one of the biggest regrets I had was actually closing the business because I thought I'd be a millionaire during COVID, for sure. That 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 delivery service business was definitely picking up, but I had to close it because I was working night shift at the airport. Two times I fell asleep on the highway, and while the car was drifting off the road, people behind me were blowing their horn, and that's how I got up and didn't get in accidents. So I said, you know what, you're at a better place now in life. You're a little more stable and settled. Let's go close this business. And I actually went legal affairs and write it off. I still have the certificate and everything for that.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so you bought your own car. So at this juncture, you're how old? 18, 19?
I bought it for my 19th birthday, a week before my 19th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. So and what year are we in now?
I left home, I believe it was 2014, so more than likely we're in the ending of 2015.
Okay. All right. So let's go up a little bit to 2018. Right. And let's get to this. You're not living in this 8 by 8 apartment anymore. Where are you now?
2018, I'm renting a much nicer place in a pretty nice apartment behind the airport.
Okay. Okay. So you're renting an apartment behind the airport. And we have a flooding. What's happening there?
Yeah, 2018, that nationwide flood that wiped out Green Lane and all these places, Trent City. And I could not go home to assess the damage because it was so bad, the roads were impassable. So I slept in my car for 2 days. And the third day, the roads were still somewhat impassable. And I started to wade through the water. When I reached to the apartment, opened the door, water just started gushing out. My fridge was in my living room, bed totally destroyed, couch totally destroyed, and I lost everything. On top of that, I lost my job because my boss wanted me to come to work. I couldn't come to work because I can't even get to my apartment, and they fired me.
On the spot?
So on the spot, yeah,
You told him you had a flood. You told him you can't drive and he fired you on the spot.
they fired me on the spot.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay.
So, but good news, it ended well. Took them to the labor board and actually won the case. So I got a
That's
payout
where I
for
was
that.
going.
Yeah, so I got a payout for that. Yeah, but that was just a very low point in my life. And things were just going haywire because after that flood, lost everything, lost my job. I started to put on a lot of weight because I have seborrheic dermatitis. So my skin starts to become very dry and white when I'm stressed out or if I eat dairy and butter and these things. And I was so stressed that my doctor actually put me on steroids. So I started to put on weight, my health was affected. And I had to look for a next job. And initially, the government were giving out flood relief grants. And though most people got it pretty quickly, I got it the next year. And because I was still trying to find my footing, couldn't buy back a bed, couldn't buy back couches. I had a styrofoam cooler for to keep myself cool or whatever. I had those normal countertop um, little one burners that you have to plug into your sockets. And that's how I lived for pretty much a year. During that year, I found a next job. I started to work for Airport Authority. Really nice place, was my dream job because I've spent all my life at this point working in the airport environment. And that's like the creme de la creme of working in the airport. Started that job. And in 2019, I got the grant from the government and I started to put things in place to start EcoWash. But I didn't start operations as yet because, work is going good. I love myself here, whatever. When I got that flood relief grant, I said to myself, you can either buy a bed to live comfortably, or at some level of comfort after a whole year of being on the ground, or you can start a business where you don't have to be at other people's mercy like that. And that's why I started to put things in place for EcoWash. And things were going good. Work was going good. Things were going good in putting things in place. And in 2020, I lost my job at the airport due to COVID. COVID was, well, it had everything on shutdown. I was one of the most recent, even though I was there for about a year, one of the most recent. So, last in, first out pretty much.
Yeah.
Lost my job. And yeah, I was unemployed for 8 months. But I said to myself, this situation seems very familiar. I can't pay my rent. I can't purchase food. My car, at that point I had mortgaged a car from the bank because I wanted a nicer, a newer car. That was pretty much on the brink of being repossessed. And I said, this looks familiar. This reminds me of 17. I need to start a business. And I remember I was praying to God a day. And I say, hey, it's 8 months. I can't be ducking my landlord like this. I'm feeling bad. I need to do something. Help, help. The groceries won't even hiring because everywhere is closed up. And I will never forget, I heard God say, I gave you a fishing rod. Go fishing. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Let me, in Jesus' name, amen. And the prayer went outside. And when I walked into my living room, I saw all my equipment that I had bought for EcoWash. And I'm like, I have a fishing rod. Time to go fishing.
But how did you
And
come up with EcoWash in the first place? I know what happened in terms of the flood and everything, but you never mentioned like, hey, how did you come up with the idea?
yeah, so EcoWash, initially living south, we would only get water, say for 2 hours in the wee hours of the morning, but water will only come in the tap for about once every 2 weeks. So it was very hard to get that pipe-borne water. So when I hear people in the note saying 2, 3 days without water, I'm looking at them like weaklings because we know how to fight it for weeks. And when I left home and I came up to St. Augustine, I was surprised that a lot of the homes and the apartments didn't even have water tanks because they so knew that they were promised that constant supply of water flowing through their pipes. And for me, it was a frustrating thing because here we are fighting for this fundamental human right, as far as I would put it, and persons are blatantly wasting it. So I started doing my investigation while I was up here, and I realized that we have over 1 million cars on the nation's roads and over 500 car washes. And all are necessary because you need a lot of car washes to wash all these vehicles on a regular basis. And I said to myself, there must be a better way to do this. But also going through that entrepreneurial course in university, I realized that you have to have that differentiator for your business. And I said, how could I add convenience to the car washing industry? Not necessarily looking to save water, Kevin. I was just looking to how do I start a business to keep my head afloat? And it's only afterwards people were coming to me and like, hey, you're saving royal water. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. Because that was not my intention. Of course, my heart is in saving water and where I came from. So that's why I did my investigation. But the primary focus of EcoWash was to create a business just to keep my head afloat. I just wanted one branch. It was paying well. In a year and a half. I was able to buy my own home, buy a showroom car. Things were going well. So that was the primary focus of it. And then persons were saying, hey, you're saving water. This is helping to achieve the SDGs and all these different things. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe we're on to something. Yes, my heart is for nature, but going through COVID, you're just looking at the dollars and cents at that point in time. And then looking at the water restrictions and all these different things. So trying to see how we can bring convenience, I stumbled upon how do we bring that level of water conservation, because the malls aren't going to let you wash cars in their property with water flying everywhere. And I remember in Form 4, we did a science experiment in school. And at that point, I'm just a wayward child, not following instructions. And the experiment failed because certain features we were looking for the end result of the chemical wasn't achieved. And Kevin, that's the same thing that we use right now to wash cars.
Oh, wow.
A failed science experiment in Form 4. I mix all my products myself. The primary product, the polymer, I mix it myself, and that is what allows us to achieve washing a car with 2 liters. Of course, the pods are nice, but the pods help us apply the product in a more seamless way. But it's the product itself, the polymer, that helps us achieve that. So that's how I came up with EcoWash, pretty much trying to survive, happy with one location. And then the government started to pay notice that this is the only initiative right now in Trinidad that helps them to achieve SDG 6, which is clean water and sanitization. And they began to push me to expand. So that was in early 2021. As of July 2023, I had one location, my flagship location where I started in C3 Mall. And in 5 months, I opened 3 additional locations. So I have 4 locations then. By the end of this year, we're going to have 23 locations in 9 countries. And these are agreements that's just on the table. But EcoWash itself was such a challenge to start because I remember going to entrepreneurial organizations and banks, and I asked one particular agency, I said, hey, I'm looking to start this business. This is what it does. And I remember the loans officer said to me, she said, your machines have no value and we don't think anybody will use your service.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, these are the people who know business. These are the people who assess risk and stuff. And they're saying it's not going to work. It may not work, but this is pretty much my last resort. I need to start something. And Kevin, strangely enough, the first 2 years of EcoWash in C3, we washed over 84,000 cars. So to move from somebody telling you nobody's going to use your service, so now you've saved over 50 million liters of water for your country is pretty crazy. Then moving on to receive many awards from the same agency that told me that, yeah, this is definitely not going to work. So I had to do a lot of bootstrapping. I remember reaching out to some of my extended family members. I said, here's what, I'm going to start this business. I need some microfiber towels. If you guys donate towels, I'll give you your 2 first washes for free. So that miniature crowdfunding, borrowing money from here, borrowing money from there. My car that was close to repossession, I told my friend, I said, here's one, you take my car and I'm going to borrow your van so I can move around my machines. And that's how I did it for a couple of months, well, to just get operations started.
How did you come up with the design for the machine, though?
Yeah, so initially we got one of the pods from Dubai, and I wasn't too happy with what was produced. It was very thin and feeble. So I decided, here's what, let's start building this for ourselves. So I went to Move until after some months, and I trained some youths over there. And I say, here's what, you guys build it, and I will, fit the bill for the raw material, pay you guys. And that's how we started to build the machines here in Trinidad. So the designers is tweaked a bit from the original one that we did get. Um, to make it more conducive to Trinidad, stronger, more robust. And now we've totally moved away from that design to now having our miniature ecopods now in 2024.
Okay. And these miniature ecopods, these were designed by the youths that you trained?
No, these are, well, I actually have one here. So this one can wash 5 vehicles before we actually
Okay.
need to refill it. So we actually brought on someone to build it from Germany, that German engineering. But
Of
now we're
course.
actually doing some work with Rotoplastic and MIC, looking to see how we can have youths involved in Trinidad, mass producing it for us so that we can start exporting.
What are some of the awards that you've won since you've been doing this venture?
Yeah, so I've won the Netco Green Entrepreneur of the Year, the EMA's Greenleaf Award, which is the top award for climate action and education. Won some stuff from the United Nations Development Program. My first trip outside of Trinidad was to Colombia, where I had to compete in the Americas, and we actually won top innovation in the Americas at that CYE competition in Colombia back in May last year. Moving on to USAID's competition in Barbados, where we won top water innovation in the Caribbean. Then going to Switzerland, where we competed against 140 countries from Africa, Asia, and the Asian Pacific, where we won top innovation in the world. And now we are in the finals for Global Entrepreneur of the Year and Sustainable Entrepreneur of the Year. Last year in 2023, I did 13 international competitions, and I've come first in all 13.
All
So
13.
all 13. So
And
we
these
have
are
not
pitch
lost that competition.
competitions.
These are pitch competitions.
Okay. So what's your formula? I love to ask people about it. What was their formula for pitch competitions? I mean, especially if somebody who's never lost.
Yeah.
You've beaten everybody around the world. What's your formula? Is it storytelling?
Definitely storytelling. I think that triple bottom line, that those 3 P's, people, planet, and profit. I think most businesses are developed around profit, and they forget about the planet, forget about the people, or sometimes that's a by the way type of thing. EcoWash, I think because what I've gone through in my early adult life, Kevin, EcoWash has done so much more than just wash cars. I always tell people I'm an impact business that just happens to wash cars. Car washing is not our main thing. Our main thing is really impacting youths and communities. So I have started, when we started EcoWash, we started to employ persons between the ages of 17 to 25 because that's an at-risk demographic, inexperienced, some see them as immature. And I knew how hard it was for me at 17, getting a job. Some of the youths that I've employed turned out to be the breadwinners in their family. So we hire persons between that age, single mothers. We hire persons from the foster care system. So at the age of 18, when you have to leave the home, we have a high percentage of foster kids at 18 and the young adult life ending up with STDs because they're on the streets having to do certain things in order to make ends meet. So in EcoWash, we don't ask for resumes, we don't ask for we don't do interviews or anything with them. We automatically hire you. We become your family because I know what it feels like, even though I was never orphan. I I'm pretty close to knowing what it feels like to just be here on your own and having to figure out and navigate your young adult life by yourself. So those are some of the things we do. I think what's special about EcoWash when it comes to competitions is that I'm not starting a business or building a business that I don't have personal attachments to. I know what it feels like to not have a steady supply of water. I know what it feels like to be a young adult and unemployed. I know what it feels like to struggle and wanting to start something or start a business and not getting that support. So just as how God told me, I've given you a fishing rod. I always tell people, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. But if you don't give him a fishing rod, though, he has the practical and theoretical skills. If you don't give him the resources to start, then you're pretty much spinning top in mud. And that's why we've moved into franchising, and that's why I developed these small pods. So in 2025, I'm giving out 1,000 of these pods to Caribbean youths so that they can start their own EcoWash venture while receiving the system and support from us so that you will never be in a position to not make money and sustain yourself. And through that, because I know university life is so tough, we've hired persons who only have 1 day free from university. And they would come to us and work. We pay them a bit extra in order to help them to sustain themselves throughout the rest of the week. And in the last, 3 going on 4 years of EcoWash, we have 9 of our employees graduate with a bachelor's degree. When otherwise, most employees may not have hired you because you can't commit to a full 40-hour week.
That's fantastic, man. But I still want to get those pitch tips. I still want to get those tips on pitching and what has worked for you in all of these 13 competitions that you've won.
Yeah, so definitely storytelling. I think showing exactly why it's near and dear to you. Definitely having a strong team. I think once you can hit those 3 P's, people, planet, profit, to see how you integrate all of that into your business is a big selling point. The world is moving steadfastly into appreciating eco businesses right now. And I think there's a lot of youths that needs to, I wouldn't say jump on the bandwagon, but I believe that as small island developing states, we are the ones who need to come up with the innovative ideas. As I always say, a mantra we have in EcoWash is, it's not our fault, but it is our fight. We aren't the ones causing climate change, but we are the ones to bring the solution to the market and how do we, climate mitigation or adaptation. So definitely looking at your team, pitching on how strong your team is, because that one-man army is a bit of a red flag to most agencies that you're pitching to. So having that strong team, having that storytelling aspect of it, showing the level of impact that you're going to have. Most agencies don't care to put more profit into one man's pocket. They want to see how are you going to impact communities and impact families and impact your nation. So those are a few tips of what worked for me. I remember when I pitched at World Congress and we went up innovation, the person who came second was from Germany, and his business had over 300 million US passing through it in that same year. So to have a car wash business and still be able to surpass these type of businesses that's bringing in a lot of revenue, it definitely shows where the focus of these international agencies that's holding these competition, where they're focusing.
Okay. So I've seen that you're able to do an elevator pitch on the spot.
Mhm.
If I was to challenge you to say, can you give us your 90-second elevator pitch right now,
Oh,
live?
yeah, sure. Oh, definitely gonna have to give that shorter pitch. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Is 2 liters of water enough to wash a vehicle? Hi, I'm Dareem Jeffrey, the owner of EcoWash. EcoWash is an ecological car wash solution that couples water conservation technology with convenience. The carts require no infrastructure or drainage, no water or electrical connection, and all our solutions are biodegradable and eco-friendly. But did I mention that we only use 2 liters of water to wash a vehicle? Yes, 2 liters of water. The ingenuity of the system simply means that wherever you park it, we can wash it. Whether at home, work, or play, shopping, dining, or simply liming with friends, wherever you park your car, we can service it there. Why? Because we care. We are conveniently located, we are affordable, we help you to reduce your carbon footprint, and our youth employment and entrepreneurial opportunities see us give persons between the ages of 17 to 25 their own opportunity to own their own EcoWash branches while receiving the system and support from us. So, saying all of that to say, we're not just a car wash, we are the car wash of the future.
Boop, boop, boop. Give this boy a check. Nice, man. Nicely done. All right. So let's talk about your international expansion. We just spoke about franchising in a way you mentioned everything you're doing, where you're essentially franchising with these young men and young women. But tell me something. Is it that do you all sign a franchising agreement, or is it more like a handshake sort of thing? How do you structure this?
Yeah, so EcoWash is a full-on corporation. We take business very seriously. It's a franchise where you sign documents. The easiest way for us to have expanded would have been through that franchising model because operating ourselves was very capital intensive. And that would have required us to bring on an investor, which I'm not ready to bring on an investor. I think very soon I will open a company to invest in, but I wanted to bootstrap it as much as I could. And franchising was that way of easy expansion. So it's a lot of vetting. This is not just somebody saying they're excited to save water. This is showing us that you have that financial capacity to run an EcoWash operation, to pay for your marketing, to build out your locations and so forth, to actually get into the franchise agreement. Because the franchise operation I run now is not a charity. Yes, I'm going to give away these pods to youths, but the master's license that we're looking to operate in certain jurisdictions like Ghana, Indonesia, America, we tap into a master's license for a franchisee and they can sub-franchise in their nation. It's very difficult to run a multinational operation and it be seamless. So we thought it would have been wise to have a master's license given to somebody that we deem to be responsible. Let's put it that way. So it's a full agreement being signed.
Okay. So let's talk about the organic growth and expansion you've been able to achieve, right? You said just in the past 6 months or so, you've gone from nine, not I don't want to get the numbers wrong. I think you've gone from nine branches to 23.
No, so last year, July, we had one, then we grew to four, and by the end of this year, we should have 23 branches in 9 countries. And
Oh, nine countries.
six of those countries are going to be in Africa, which would be Ghana, Togo, Benin, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and Benin. So those are the six countries in Africa, and expanding also to Guyana, Barbados, and Jamaica.
Okay. So how did that happen? How were you able to achieve this expansion? Was it intentional or did it just happen organically?
Yeah, Kevin, surprisingly, nothing in EcoWash is intentional. As I told you, I was happy with
Nothing
one
in
branch.
EcoWash is intentional.
Yeah, yeah, I was happy with one branch. I was running one branch by itself was stressful, and I wasn't looking for stress. And you realize not only do you have agencies pushing you to expand, but also wanting to have that additional impact, changing youth's lives and so forth. I was approached today by a agency, Netco, the National Entrepreneurship Development Company, and they offered me a complimentary trip to Africa on a trade mission.
Oh, nice.
And I said, okay, cool. I don't know what I'm going to do in Africa, but it's good to see the motherland. I'll go sightseeing because I didn't think there was opportunity for me over there. I think the Africa you see on TV is not the Africa you do see when you go there in person.
Yes.
And me going over there, I'm like, nobody gonna be able to afford my franchise. And Africans who have cars and these things. But I was very surprised to see what I saw when I left Trinidad and went to Ghana in March. And while over there, I felt as though I left Trinidad and then landed back in Trinidad. Accra was identical to Port of Spain. And while I was there, some B2B meetings were set up. I met a couple of potential franchisees. And then on the last day, someone said to me, hey, I go to this particular place to service my vehicle. I think there might be opportunity for you there. Let's go. This is hours before my flight. Went to the car firm only to find out that it's the largest car firm in Ghana that has 11 locations in 6 countries in Africa. Pitching the business to them, they're blown away because I have my small pod and everything with me because I'm traveling with my machine to show you how it works. And they were totally blown away and they're telling me, you're saving us at each branch approximately 3,000 US every month. We want this technology here. And the rest was history. They were so excited that the owner of the car firm has asked to sit on the board of EcoWash Africa because they see so much promise in how this can revolutionize their own industry, not just making things easier for them, but the water conservation that is so near and dear to Ghanaians and other persons in Africa.
Lovely. And I know water supply is a challenge up there, and it spans through many industries, especially in the agriculture sector up there. Okay. And are you in Asia as yet or no?
Yeah, so we're having conversations. Asia has become my second home. I've had persons from Tunisia reach out to me to do training over there. An agency is flying me out in September to do some training in Indonesia with some youths over there. And I think I'm starting more and more to understand the the game changing way and the and how much free enterprise can be a tremendous equalizer. Starting your own business, one, it doesn't discriminate of where you came from, your background, your age, your gender. Of course, there are certain things at play, but seeing what this little pod, I remember a guy actually told me there's a little piece of plastic that is maybe like a 5 US. And to them, it's 5 US. For me, I see it as that door that can change somebody's life. I never thought a car wash could move me from living in a rat hole to living in my own home or driving my own car. And for me now, it's seeing how this little pod, which is a business in a box, can transcend nations and actually change people's lives. Because now your future is dependent on you. It's no longer the government or where you were born into. This is your grit and your drive that will get you out of your predicament. So that's why we're doing something that's very new to the Caribbean, and I've never heard it in this region at all. Something called micro franchising, because larger franchises take somebody who has a lot of money, they inject the capital, buy into a system so that they can multiply that initial investment. But micro franchising say, how do I take this big business system, condense it into something smaller and manageable, that system and support that wouldn't make you a millionaire, but it will help you to change your socioeconomic bracket. How do I get you to move from poverty to lower class and then to middle class? And that is what I am realizing now more than ever. And that's why I'm excited to continue my work in Indonesia and Asia in not just bringing a technology to them, but bringing something that could change their lives.
What would you say are some of the biggest challenges you faced on this journey? Because it sounds like, I mean, people listening might think, hey, a lot of the challenges happened in the beginning when how he grew up, the rat hole and all of these things, losing your job, when he had the flood and everything. But in running the business and expanding from franchise to franchise and pitching all over the world, winning all these competitions and whatnot, having all of these large and well-established and reputable firms wanting to partner with you, what are some of the challenges and drawbacks that you would have faced in this journey?
I think one of the biggest challenges is just persons in Trinidad in these agencies just not understanding innovation. I've about 2 years ago, an agency sponsored me a, a small booth at a trade show. And while I was there, excited, my pods are out, this is a big opportunity. You could possibly get contracts off of this. And one of the board members from that said agency came and cursed me out in front of everybody. Profanity, F word here, F word there. You're so young and stupid. You're using all your precious energy behind this nonsense. And I'm just standing there and being belittled. They sent me an email, they called apologizing. So this is real. This is somebody just lambasting you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was telling some youths actually today, they asked me, what do you do when people speak down to you or criticize you? And of course, you have to tell them the politically correct answer. You're born with a purpose and God has you here and you have to believe in God and la la la. And all of that is true and I believe in that. And then at the end, I told them, I said, here's what. There is nothing anybody can tell me in this life to hurt my feelings. Nothing. I think when you went through what you went through and what your loved ones said to you and you could survive that, there's nothing you can tell me to hurt my feelings. But having agencies not understand innovation, having people think that you as an individual should not have this. This should be for a particular sector of society or a particular type of people, this innovation. You have the prettiest baby on the block and you shouldn't have this baby. You should have an ugly baby. And people actually telling you, hey, how you of everybody could come up with this. So how could certain agencies give you certain things when persons of your background shouldn't have accomplished certain things? Also, like recently I was on an investment show, and the person putting on the show, the producer, is telling me after my business has crossed millions in revenue every year, telling me my business can't even get a valuation because it's not worth anything, and
Wow.
telling me to sell off my business to an investor because it counts for nothing.
Sell off the entire business and you can't get a valuation. This
Yeah,
is after
so
how many franchises?
this
How many
is
locations?
this is having 4 locations in Trinidad, building out 11 locations in Africa, doing over a million revenue, almost 2 million revenue, just at one of your Trinidad locations, and showing all of your financials and telling you, sell off this or put me on your board and let me run it.
But
And I'm
as a
like,
chartered business valuator, I'll tell you I'll definitely value your business.
yeah, but to just hear, I think if you're not secure within yourself and know what you
Mhm.
have your hands on, and that's why I'm so fearful for young entrepreneurs, because my past has allowed me to not internalize the negative things that people say to me. But you have young, naive, bushy-tailed people coming out here with good businesses who haven't gone through what I've gone through and may actually believe the negative things being said to them. So that's my scare for young entrepreneurs, because there are sharks out there, and sharks who know and value you better than you actually value yourself, and they know what you have your hands on.
So how did you handle that situation with that show producer?
Yeah, I stood my ground. I told them, I said, here's well, if you're not going to give me what I think my business is valued, then all deals are off. I don't want to be associated with this anymore, and let's part ways amicably. And I left. And what I was asking for was n- not even close to what my business is worth, Kevin. And then yesterday, to get an email from an international agency saying, here's what, we're going to give you $1 million grant. And here you have an agency, a multinational agency, seeing your value, and then your own countrymen saying, that ain't worth nothing out here.
It really is rough, but it really is
It
rough.
is. But I'm not in it for the fame. Let's get the fortune. I'm not in it for the photo ups and the features in the papers. I think it's a matter of really being honest to yourself and trying to impact people's lives, and also trying to safeguard your young entrepreneurs along the way.
Hmm. Would you have any other advice that you want to get off for entrepreneurs,
Um,
especially those looking to build a scalable and valuable business in today's
yeah,
market?
I would say definitely, change the environment. I think one of the best decisions I've made was moving from south to north. At the age of 17 was the first time I saw the Twin Towers in Port of Spain. And I lived Trinidad. That by itself was a culture shock for me. At the age of 17 was the first time I had a hot and cold shower. That was a culture shock for me. Because we don't have these luxuries where I'm from. You don't have constant water supply to be wasting water in a hot and cold shower like that. So moving from there, you realize that, wait now, and the reason why I wanted to attend university, because where I'm from, it's either you work in a grocery or you become a security officer. I didn't see myself being any one of those two. So I had to leave home, had to see that there is a bigger world out there. And I started to compete in international competitions because I had won 3 competitions in Trinidad. And I remember getting messages from my own supporters saying, oh gosh, leave something for somebody else now. You want to win everything, you're being greedy. And I said to myself, I will never compete in Trinidad again. 20 minutes later, I got an email from a friend saying, hey, look, I just saw a competition in Barbados. You should apply for it. And that was the first competition I actually won, the USAID. top water innovation in the Caribbean. And that's what started me traveling and seeing that as much as the world seems like a big place, just as how we can move from point A to point B in Trinidad and be in Port of Spain and open a business in San Fernando, this world is really a global village. And I think traveling has really made me realize that there are no geographical limitations to where we can set up a business as a Trinidadian. Well, except North Korea, but I digress. But there are no international limitations. I would say to youths and young entrepreneurs that we have so much investable SMEs in Trinidad, even micro businesses that has the potential to become worldwide phenomenons. But I don't think there are people and agencies out there willing to stretch SMEs or MSMEs' minds to actually see that type of possibility. So that so definitely that also. And traveling, I've realized that Trinidad, it's maybe the best place to start off as an entrepreneur. And mind you, I said start off as an entrepreneur. I
That's
think,
interesting.
yeah, we have so much things being thrown at us to our benefit. While I was in Switzerland talking to, other entrepreneurs, and they're blown away by I can get a grant from my government. My government will pay for this. My government will set up this trading for us. We have Netco, we have Kariri, we have this money giving away, this grant giving away. And internationally, every cent you get from agencies, you're going to have to give up some percentage of your business. And we don't understand how lucky we have it. I was in London 3 weeks ago, and I was talking to some other entrepreneurs there. And I remember a girl called her mother on video call, and she said, Dareem, repeat what you just said because I can't believe it and I want my mother to hear. And I was telling her, I said, hey, we have all these things set up for us as entrepreneurs in Trinidad. I just graduated. So even though I never graduated, I never went back to finish my bachelor's. Last year, November, I graduated with a certificate in agriculture and agro-processing. And what that has allowed me to do is I've gotten a free house and 2 acres of land and a grant from my government to start farming. I don't think there's anywhere in this world that a government is going to give you a house and 2 acres of land for free to start agriculture. And I think our entrepreneurs, I don't want to say they're spoon fed, but I don't think we understand the value of what we actually do get and what is available to us. A lot of what I've gotten in building EcoWash in Trinidad, it was just a matter of seeking out the information. And yet you're telling other entrepreneurs about these things and they're blown away because they never heard of it. And it's because we don't go seeking out this type of knowledge of what we can tap into, what we have access to. Last year, there was a grant for 500,000 TT. And I applied for it the year before. I didn't get through. They told me that I needed a tax certificate and a VAT certificate. So I said, cool, my business hasn't reached a point where I was paying VAT. Sitting with some other entrepreneurs, by the way, here a guy say, hey, anybody applied for the non-VAT certificate as yet? I didn't know there was a non-VAT certificate. The next year, I applied for the same grant, putting in non-VAT certificate as a substitute for the VAT certificate, and got 50,000 US from that grant funding. And it's just a matter of getting the simple information that could put a cash injection in your business that could change your life. And I think it's just a matter of knowledge sharing. I think we in Trinidad are very stingy with knowledge in building businesses. And I think we as entrepreneurs need to definitely come out from that kind of notion and behavior and really try to pull each other up.
Well, no, you listen. I usually have a lot to say. No, but no, that is really fantastic advice. Listen, man, I'm getting ready to wrap up. I want to ask you if you have any final thoughts, but I feel like you just gave us so many thoughts. Your final thoughts other than what you just
Um,
said?
I would say entrepreneurs just keep showing up, keep fighting your fight. They may not say it, but I'm telling you, they're looking. Your customers are looking, your potential customers are looking. Just fight your fight, and you just never know what tomorrow holds.
I must say I'm blown away by your story, your humility, your resilience, and your empathy for those who are coming after you to go into so for those outside of Trinidad. Mova Laventil is known as a hotspot, so a trouble area of high crime and high risk or whatnot. For you to go in there and seek out youth there to mentor them and to give them a business opportunity without doing the whole certificates of good character, hey, what's your record, interview, all of that, to trusting them, the way you would have wanted somebody to trust you and to do that. I'm blown away. It was for that reason I'm speechless. Podcast world, there you have it. $28 and a dream with Dareem Jeffrey. Subscribe to The Value at thevalue.show/subscribe. Check us out on Castbox, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And with that, Dareem.
Peace.
Podcast World, Gammon Studios, we are out.
Out.